Hi. Grief Opened the Door to Heaven by Kim Droptiny, Chapter 20, Forgive. Bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die, unknown. The grief book I was reading said that it is normal to be ultra sensitive towards others, and that one of the hardest insults that someone can give to a grieving person is to say nothing. How relieved I was to read that, because I was continuing to have a hard time dealing with the fact that most of the people in my life said absolutely nothing about Gabe or his passing. Their lack of words and empathy, in my mind, cut like a knife. The author of the book said that we have to forgive those people. Ouch! I knew I had a lot of people to forgive. I learned through the experience of my ex-husband cheating on me that it is imperative to forgive. Withholding forgiveness ultimately only hurts ourselves. We foolishly think that if we forgive, we might let the other person off the hook. We need to learn that we can't control other people, only our responses to others. Bitterness develops out of a heart that refuses to let go of offenses. I believe that bitterness is the cause of a lot of sicknesses, and for sure does not contribute to good mental health. Forgiveness brings freedom, while bitterness keeps us in chains. I've also learned that forgiveness can be hard work, depending on the offense. It took me months to forgive a friend who had deeply wounded me. I had to pray every day that the Lord would make me willing to forgive. Forgiveness is often hard work in the sense that you have to pay attention to your heart. Sometimes we harbor anger without even realizing it. The Lord's Prayer says, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Sometimes forgiveness needs to occur on a daily basis. It can be like breathing in and breathing out. Breathe in, "Lord, forgive me," and breathe out, "Lord, I forgive." It helps me when I first of all simply admit that I am carrying an offense, whether it was deserved or not. The other person might be completely in the wrong, but if I can't forgive that person and let it go, then I become just as wrong. After I admit that I have a lack of forgiveness, I confess that to the Lord. I ask for His grace to forgive that person and to love them. Those steps are usually enough for me in everyday life occurrences. I make a choice to forgive, and He is faithful to fill me with His grace, the undeserved grace I received when He forgave me and died on the cross for my sins. Sometimes, however, forgiveness is a process and takes time. Depending on the offense, it might take much longer to come to complete freedom. If you find you are struggling in that area, ask the Lord to change your heart. Ask Him to show you what steps to take. Some people need a counselor to talk through their issues. Our God is compassionate, and if you are willing to enter the process of forgiveness, He will certainly direct your steps. I certainly didn't like feeling grumpy all the time and mad at everyone. It felt good to acknowledge my anger and let those people off the hook. Once I did that, I was free to love rather than expect love. Another nugget that I found in the grief book was this sentence: "There's only one thing I found that helps with the pain: serving others." I had already discovered that wonderful truth, but when something as devastating as such a great loss comes into your life, it is easy to reason that we can take a break from loving and serving. I reasoned, I'm experiencing so much pain and I'm the one who needs to be ministered to. Yet, no one ministered to Jesus when He was in agony over His impending death. Instead, He washed His disciples' feet. When he asked his best friends to be with him in the garden the night of his arrest, they all fell asleep. Yet Jesus loved them still and chose to give the ultimate sacrifice for them and us, his life. After pondering on the idea of serving amidst my grief, I decided to rise above my pain and to love and serve whenever the opportunity presented itself. My moment came not long after that decision. It wasn't a big thing, but it was big in the sense of shifting my thought patterns. There was a young man temporarily living in the hostel where we were staying. He was from the United States and doing a short internship in Berlin. He seemed lonely, and so I decided to reach out to him. I knew that to completely give myself to him, I could not mention the death of my son, because if I did, the focus would turn to me. We began to chat, and slowly he opened up his heart to me. It turned out that he was feeling lonely and isolated in Berlin. We developed a friendship, and he even began to eat dinners with Tilo, Brianna, and I. And it was healing. I had a sneaky little joy inside my heart that I had not shared my own pain. Amazingly, a year later, his whole family blessed our ministry with a large financial gift. We were blown away by their generosity. I don't want to make it sound like no one reached out to me. There were glorious times when people showed great love and compassion. One cold night, Brianna and I were at a Christmas market when we ran into our missionary friend, Sharon. After initial greetings, she immediately asked how we were doing with such kindness in her eyes. Brianna answered honestly that she was struggling, and Sharon said, "Can I please pray for you right now?" "Oh, yes, please," we both echoed. It didn't matter that the cold air was biting at our noses or that the crowds were so thick you could hardly walk. Sharon drew us in close, put her arms around us, and prayed. "Lord, please bring your comfort to Brianna and Kim. You know exactly how they feel because you lost your son too. You know the pain of losing a son. You know how much it hurts. And when Jesus died, the disciples lost their brother and best friend, and so you know exactly how Brianna feels." As she prayed, both Brianna and I started crying, releasing our pain through tears. We were so blessed that the Lord sent a friend willing to reach out and pray for us, even in a public square. Just that small moment of asking how we were and praying with us was healing. As we walked away, we discussed how we had never thought about the apostles and their grief. Brianna found it comforting to realize that they too had lost a brother. Together we wondered how long they had grieved. For although they had seen Jesus alive, they must have missed him deeply. He had been their closest companion for 3 years. I'm sure they missed his laugh, jokes, and the way he was a brotherly friend to them. That cold, bleak night, with the twinkling of the Christmas lights shining in our eyes, we discovered for the first time that we could relate to the apostles and they to us. I think our friend's simple prayer accomplished more for us than she ever realized. Perhaps that is the case for many of us when we take the opportunity to reach out in love to others. And that's the end of chapter 20. May God bless you. Thank you for listening.